Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Adrian.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How does it feel to be on this podcast?
Feels quite good. I've heard about it
Quite
a lot, yeah. Yeah.
From me specifically or?
Specifically you, yes.
Sad. Word hasn't gotten around yet.
Yeah, but we'll after this one. So.
Yeah. Sounds good. All of Adrian's friends are going to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. That's how it works, yeah.
Sounds good. And yeah, we'll just, have a little chat about Adrian's upbringing and see how he got to where he is today.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so Adrian, what kind of child were you like growing up?
Straight into the good stuff.
Yeah. Or the bad stuff.
Oh yeah, depending on what kind of child I was. I was quite timid as a kid. Oh. I was not super extroverted. I was kind of laid back, but also kind of secretly, a bit self-conscious. Yeah. That's I thought self-assured, and that's the opposite of what I'm trying to go for here.
Which is what you are now.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like a fake veneer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just as a kid, I just kind of went with the flow. I was pretty, just went along with what everyone was was doing, and I don't know. I wasn't super adventurous. I think my personality kind of shifted as I got older. When I was especially young, I just I was always the teacher's pet. I was goody two shoes. Followed everything the teacher expected. That sort of dynamic. And then I think as I got older, I sort of I cared a little less about the teacher's approval in a way.
Yeah.
And I think, end of primary school going into high school, I started pushing the boundaries a little bit. I was I have in grade 7, me and my friends, we really liked hanging out in the out of bounds areas of the school, and so we had a pair of walkie-talkies, and we would communicate to each other. We'd sneak around corners, and when because the teachers would do a patrol of the school, and they would, when the teacher went around the corner and we had a clear beeline, we would radio into each other and sneak there, and eventually we'd all rendezvous at this this spot where we would hang out. We had snacks and everything set up, and that was quite fun. And I think going into high school, just the shift, I was oh, we don't do that anymore. Okay, we're in a completely different landscape here. Yeah, but I mean, despite all that, I was still in the classroom. I was still very conscious of my grades. I had
pretty good grades.
Yeah,
Spill them out.
But what? My actual grades?
Do you remember, I guess?
I don't know. I don't. It was 10 years, over 10 years ago.
Well, you're old now.
Yeah, I'm an old man. Yeah. And so, yeah, going into high school, it was I think you kind of first realize not many people from the same school are there as you, and you're kind of who am I in this this bigger pond? Yeah, where do I fit in? And high school kids, they start making friends in the first week, and you got to find a group to hang out with and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I just went with the sort of more academic kids. Yeah, the nerds. Although there were members of the group who were nerdy and non-academic, they'd play games and that sort of thing. So, I fit quite well into that group. And I sort of stayed with them throughout high school. And then eventually, when grade 11 came around, I don't know, there was some weird shift because the grade 12s had left from the previous year, and it was how the grade 12s and that they had the best areas of the school to hang out with, they had
cool kids.
They
ruled the school.
They had the big covered area with the tables, and before me and my friends used to sit near this tree That was just like, there was no shade at all.
Yeah.
It was just the worst spot. Everyone's sitting on the edge of a circle. And so like the people on the end just can't talk to each other at all. So that was like really bad. But like, yeah, moving to this new spot, it was like great. And like a bunch of other groups moved there as well. And so we kind of formed like a bigger group that wasn't just like the academic or the nerdy kids. It was like, you know, there are actually like popular kids in that group. You know, there's people who played sport, like a big mix of people, and we all kind of became friends through that. So
cool.
kind of introduced a different dynamic, which I think kind of affected how I perceived people in a way, because like there was less separation between like the different groups of people. So you just kind of realize, I can be friends with any of these people, and it doesn't matter. You know, I don't have to be friends with people who are exactly like me. You know.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. It opened your eyes up.
Yeah, in a way. But it's a lesson I've remembered and forgotten many times throughout my life. And, you know, I still have the tendency to kind of, you know.
Yeah, like perceive someone as different. But when you start like talking to them, you find that like, oh, they're actually, you can relate on so many different levels.
Well, yeah, exactly that. I think, that's something that you kind of, I think it depends on context as well, but you know, when you're in an unfamiliar environment, you kind of shut off. Sometimes you kind of like, you have a different train of thought in a way, but yeah, I think those years were quite, you know, formative for me, because it kind of taught me that sort of, you know, people, you should try and make friends with people who have different interests in that to you and that sort of thing, and it was quite good.
Yeah, that's really
Are you
good.
okay?
Yeah. Each time I see Adrian, I just really want to laugh.
Wow.
Because 99% of our convos in real life are not serious, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, It's
very...
So it feels kind of like weird to be in a very sort of formal situation.
That is true. It is like... just talking with you all the time is very like very jokey, very light, you know.
Very random.
Yeah,
no kind of sequence or anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the structure is very new, I think, to both of us.
Yeah. Sounds good. But yeah, I want to also talk a little bit about the primary school. So was there sort of like turning point where you became the more sort of rebellious? Was there anything that sort of triggered it, if you can remember? Because how does one just suddenly wake up and like stop caring a bit? Like, I mean, if there's a magic pill, Adrian.
Yeah. What is the magic pill?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's really not as bad as it's being made out to be. Like I wasn't like, you know, like I wasn't really in detention all the time. It was more so, I think, because I was like a goody two shoes for like a lot of primary school. You kind of learn where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
And then I think one day you just kind of see the boundary and you're like, what if I push it a bit, you know? Yeah, it's a curiosity. It's like, what if I you know, push it a bit there? What if I make this joke? What if I do this, you know? I mean, we pushed it to its literal extreme when me and my friends were like at the outer bounds of the school, and there was a fence and like a gate. Yeah. We would like try and go as far as we could. And we would like try and go as far out as we can, and we'd just be in a street, so it was really not good for us to do that. Don't do that. But yeah, I think it was just kind of very progressive, pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. But also enlarging your comfort zone in many ways. So
I guess, yeah. Well, it is good because like sometimes you realize like the boundaries that are there are just ones that you made up in your head. So sometimes, like I mentioned, like making jokes and that sort of thing, like, you know, it's like sometimes you're too afraid to make a joke because you're worried about like how people might perceive it. But then you realize that was just something, like a boundary you put in your own head. Yeah. And it would be fine if you said that. And then sometimes maybe you'll say something and it wasn't good. And there's an actual boundary and now you found it. You know, don't cross that. So I think it was just mainly differentiating like what the boundaries actually were and what I had perceived them to be, and like just seeing what the difference between those two things was. I don't know, but I think curiosity was I think that's a good way to put it. It was just kind of like, is that
Yeah.
is that something that's okay to do? But it's learning, I guess.
Yeah.
And it deals with like, it's like social norms and that sort of thing. Like, is this okay socially, or is it like okay, that sort of thing. But
damn, that's pretty cool. Like, in retrospect, sounds like you actually did learn a lot, and then it's it's like something that even you sort of kind of use today.
Yeah, in a way. I don't know. In some ways, I feel like as a kid, I was a lot more like self-conscious, but in some ways, I feel like I was a lot less. So sometimes there's a bit of a
it's like
it's not consistent.
Have two opposing things, but they also sort of somehow have harmony.
Yeah. Wow, that's very, very
deep.
Yeah, very deep, very spiritual.
Yeah. Wait. So tell me about being like self-conscious in some, like more self-conscious in some ways, but also less self-conscious at that time when you were in primary school.
I think, like I mentioned, it's kind of like a context sort of thing. So it's like when I'm doing something that I enjoy, I'm obviously a lot more comfortable. And because I'm thinking in like a more positive way, that's like reflecting in how I talk to people and that sort of thing. And it's the same when it's like negative or neutral or that sort of thing. Some days you'll wake up and like, this is something I still find true for me, like today, is like some days you'll wake up and you'll feel like you're more inclined to be a bit like awkward or a bit, it's like when people say waking up on the wrong side of the bed, that sort of thing. So I guess the self-consciousness kind of stems from that a bit, but being aware of that, like more self-aware of that, I think has like helped a lot. Like, some days I might feel this way and that's fine, there's always tomorrow or, and I think in other ways it's just learning, like education, just, pushing the boundaries, but also, I guess, forming more friendships and more relationships and that sort of thing, and just seeing what other people think as well.
Sort of like
that's like a big
get a bit of strategies.
Building up the strategy, the building up the
toolkit,
the playbook,
if joke A doesn't work, hopefully I can pop out joke B.
It's like it's like when you hear a joke, either like that's another thing. I learned a lot from like the media I consumed as well. Like, I think that was very formative in like developing like my humor. But my humor is it's not like that clever. I'll just throw out like terrible jokes and
it's like kind of very situational,
yes,
which is kind of my humor as well. That's why we laugh at the same thing.
Did you mean slapstick?
Sometimes.
So would you like laugh at someone if someone like fell over?
Actually, if it was you, I would 100% laugh. But
that's
also,
fair,
it's things where it's like in the moment when it happens. Like, there are some really clever jokes where I can probably like tell another friend and they'll laugh. But if I said, Adrian, he, I don't know, accidentally, hit himself or something.
Wow.
Do you understand that it's like only in the moment people can understand when like all the conditions are right, where there's like that vibe and at that time.
Definitely.
So that's why I feel like my joke quality is quite low sometimes, where it can't be transferred like outside of the context or outside of the moment.
I mean, definitely. That's like something you kind of have to learn, is that in different contexts and with different people, the same jokes and the same conversations, they don't stick. And I think that's like something you kind of have to learn, and you end up like
trial and
yeah,
error.
exactly. I love trial and error. I think as a kid I was always like, and even now to some extent, I'm always like afraid of failure. So like, you don't want to like try and push the boundaries because like
consequences.
Consequences. Even I think going back to pushing the boundaries, it's like finding out there aren't
boundaries.
There aren't consequences sometimes. And I don't mean that in the sense that like you should do bad stuff and I mean it in the sense that like you should just try things that, might work out, they might not work out, and if it doesn't work out, then it turns out the consequence isn't actually as bad as you think. There's a lot of mental roadblocks that you kind of put up And yeah, I think that's...
sometimes it's all in your head.
Oh, so many times it's all in your head. But yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
I didn't think I really had a question after that. But I also was kind of curious, like, were your parents really strict when you were young? Because I feel like, really strict parents can, later raise really rebellious kids. But you were sort of, like you said, more on the sort of teacher pets, goody two-shoes in the sort of primary school early days.
Yeah. I was, like, I always, even after that, like, primary school, I always got my work done and that sort of thing. I think in high school, later on, it was more like get the work done so I could just mess around for the rest of the lesson. Because some of the teachers, me and my friends would just be making a complete ruckus in the back of the classroom. But they couldn't really get mad because we did all that work. Except, when we were distracting other students, then it wasn't good. But yeah, so in terms of like my parents, I am from, both of my parents are from different cultural backgrounds. So my mother is Filipino. Father he's Australian but half Dutch, hence the last name. And my dad was always a lot more laid back. He was a lot more chill, just letting me deal with my own things. My own mess, deal with the consequences, that sort of thing. My mum she was overprotective, but she wasn't strict. So she wasn't like speaking from experience, talking to other Filipino and half Filipino, children. I think it varies. My mum was less strict in some ways, but could be quite overprotective. So even to this day, my mum will message all the time saying, "When are you coming home? When is this?" So I wasn't necessarily restricted in like a major sense. But yeah, I think I still kind of, like, they still instilled like the value of, like hard work and trying to get as best grades you can, that sort of thing. Like, they always were very encouraging in that regard. But no, they weren't like super strict. So they kind of just let me do my own thing. And I don't know, I feel like maybe the reason why I acted as like, both acting as like a, goody two-shoes to being a little bit more rebellious was more just like my own doing rather than anything my parents had to say. Because my parents were kind of okay if I was, they weren't angry either way.
That's cool. And just kind of curious, how did you or when did you realize that your mum was quite overprotective? Because there probably is like a moment when you realize, like, because you think like, hey, aren't all my friends like getting texts from like their parents asking them?
I think in that sense, definitely getting a phone, because then she could communicate with me constantly. I suppose that's a good question, because I'm not sure if there's like an exact... when I actually remember it, I'll like go back to it. That's a good question. I think this may or may not be related, but I remember there was a time me and my mum went to like a multicultural like festival. And there was like a water fountain that we walked past. And I was like, as a kid, I was like enthralled by this thing. I was like, whoa, what is that? I just saw the water shooting everywhere, that sort of thing. And, we walk past it, my mum pulls me away. And then 5 minutes later, she sees that I'm not with her anymore. And she starts freaking out. She's like, what the heck? What happened? And I had actually run back to the fountain and I was swimming in it. I just jumped in the fountain. There's people. I don't know, I was like 5, I think.
I was hoping you were going to say you were 12.
I was like, if I was 12. Happened last week, Karen.
Wouldn't be as cute, they say.
It would be a little bit frightening. But then she raised all sorts of hell. There was there were people looking for me, that sort of thing. That's probably when I knew that. Well, that's when I knew swimming in water fountains was generally frowned upon. But also, that's when I realized, my mum's very, very overprotective. Well, I think as I got older and she realized I could take care of myself a lot more, she kind of was like, okay, that's cool. But, you know, even now, she still worries, and that's just her nature.
Maybe for good reason.
Yeah.
Wait, so like...
she'll find out I'm swimming in like Yuki Lakes.
Yeah, it's really dirty.
Yeah, no, definitely call someone if I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So kind of curious, did you actually have that memory of you swimming?
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember?
I distinctly, that's one of like my earliest memories, a very formative one, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there've been a lot of times where like I've done something like, there's another time I was like at Bunnings, and you know how Bunnings has like the playground? Or sometimes they'll have like a playground.
Oh.
So I was like, my parents just put me in the playground, and then they just went about their shopping and that sort of thing. It's like very common. And I like managed to convince like another kid to like open the gate for me, because there was like a bridge that went over the gate, and I realized they could reach up and like grab it. So I like told this kid, hey, could you open this? And then I escaped the pen, and I went running around looking for my parents like a maniac. And then like when I couldn't find them, I just started crying. So then I had to deal with, you know, there's over the loudspeaker, hey, we found your son. He's over here. My parents are just like, what is this?
Wow, you were a smart kid.
I wouldn't say smart, but
Wait, how old are we talking?
Probably the same age, honestly.
You have good memories. Like, my memories start like around 6.
That's around 6.
You're 5.
Oh, 5. 1 year difference.
Yeah.
No, that one was, I just remember those memories in particular. You know how you have memories that just stick out to you? You're kind of like, sort of like that.
Yeah.
I just, those two stick out very
and that's probably when you sort of felt like, not the severity, but like the consequences, where it can be like a very big consequence for like something seemingly small.
I think that's probably why I remember them. Just like the aftermath was like over, it was a bigger deal than I thought it was.
Yeah.
But in the second one, I was just upset, so really that was completely my fault.
Yeah. Do you think you were sort of like a chaotic child that made your parents sort of like worry for you a lot? Because I don't know if you grew out of it.
I'm on a major crime streak right now. I wouldn't say I was chaotic. I think the reason why they were worried was that usually I was, you know, quite mild-mannered. And it was just those times. It was just a surprise. It was like, what the heck? What are you doing?
Randomness.
We didn't expect that. So I wouldn't say I was like chaotic. I'd say I wasn't consistent. Like sometimes I would be. Because I think if you're chaotic,
you're always like...
it's still predictable.
Yeah.
Like you can still, like, you know they're going to be doing something crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it was just, maybe every once in a while I acted up. Ooh.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
The lights
Hopefully we don't get locked out.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh, wait. The door is taped. It can't be.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because I think... sometimes like hearing about like your childhood sort of reminds me of myself, but like I think I guess like mine, like I would say that my mom is also quite protective, but it's probably because more I was like a klutz when I was young. Like I would, you know, someone like I fell into this pool and someone had to save me. Well, like when I was ice skating, I fell onto my face. I had like a massive bruise at some point in time, and my mom, she's like, ice skating is dangerous.
Never do it again.
Yeah, and I like pretty much like got quit, and then like but I think for me, when I realized my mum was quite protective of like me in particular, it's because I have a reference of like an older brother, right? There are things that he's allowed to do that I'm not allowed to do. And then like, I was like, I like just wanted to like go to like this party thing. And then my mum, she's like, nah, you can't go. And then my brother went, and I was like, what? That's not fair. And then my mum, she's like, you like break something or something like that. It was just like a very kind of like, random sort of, but I think I broke my watch, but that's okay.
Oh, okay, let's move on.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. So,
right.
Yeah. But
probably, sorry.
Oh no, I also have this, but I think there was also this moment where I realized that like, my mom, she's like very like sort of conservative and like takes extra like is like my mom. She does insurance, so she's like very, very, you know, careful. And then there's this one time when I was going overseas. And then it wasn't like with parents. And then like my mom, like for every year, she had been making me like, you know, one of those like plastic sleeves where you put like paper into it and you have those binders, right?
Oh, like a photo album?
Oh, no. As in like where it's kind of a binder and it's like just for paper. It's like one of these like sort of plastic things. And then
oh yeah, I know them. Yes, I know them.
Yeah, and then my mom, she used like every year until like I was like 18 or something, would make me put my passport in there because she thought I would drop it and get it wet or something. Yeah. And then everyone like around me was like, Karen, what is that for? And I'm like, I don't know. My mom, she always makes me. And then I went home and she's like, oh, I thought you might like drop it somewhere or something. Yeah. So that's kind of like funny in hindsight. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, I think that's probably a good example of like the kind of thing. So was that like when you realised that your mum, was that like the moment?
Yeah, I think like one was like the one with like in reference to my brother. And then that one was like, people like sort of like my treatment like from my parents is sort of like different to my peers. So it's sort of having that space for comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
I think, that it was kind of similar with me when I did get my phone, and you know, my phone would just be just constant messages, and you know, like my mum was fine with me doing that sort of thing, but it was just she wanted updates. You know? She just wanted like, hey, how's it going? You know, which is fine. Like I don't mind doing it, but I think, you know, when it's only you and all your peers are like, it's kind of like, okay, do I really have to?
Yeah.
What I was going to mention is that because you mentioned your brother, I'm actually an only child.
Yeah.
So that's probably a big reason for her overprotectiveness.
Oh,
because there's only one of me, you know.
Oh, that's so funny. Like I remember one of my coworkers, he used to say something a bit inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
Where, so every day I would, so he'd be like, where he works is around like the entrance of like me like exiting and coming into the company, and then and then like when it was time to leave, he'd be like, Karen, where are you going? I'm like, going home. And then he's like, don't you have a brother? Like they don't need you. You already have a brother. I'd be like, I know, right? But so
that sounds like something I'd say.
But bet you never got that. So
no, didn't get that. I was always, I mean, that's the thing, like there's, you know, the standard like as an only child, you always get like the standard questions like, oh, I bet you're spoiled, or oh, do you ever wish you had like a sibling, or that sort of thing. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like when I was younger, I definitely did want to have a sibling. Yeah. But like,
oh, and what, like, would it be like an older brother, older sister, or not that you get to choose now, but wish list?
I feel like having an older brother would have helped in the sense that they would have had to do everything first, and then you're just following in their footsteps and that sort of thing. But at the same time, having like a younger sibling would be like, you know, someone you could kind of, I don't know, be a bit protective of, but also mess around with. I don't know, like that dynamic, I think, is something that I kind of wished I had as a kid. But like at the same time, I think probably my relationship with my parents is like very strong, and maybe that's because I was an only child.
That's true. Limited time.
That's true. And you have to talk to your parents and no one else when you're at home. So
that's true.
Yeah,
interesting. So did you, like now, like if you had the choice, magic wand, sibling or no sibling?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe I'd do it just to mix it up a bit, you know? Yeah. Like, is the idea that, like, my entire childhood is gone and it's, like, replaced?
Yeah, by, like, with the sibling.
Yeah, I'd probably do it just to see what it was like, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just having, like, another relationship, like another dynamic would have been something, you know, maybe something more formative. Maybe I would be a completely different person.
Oh, I bet you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be way more successful, you know.
Or maybe you'll be set in your older brother's shadow.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But then it's easy for me because I just follow. I just do what they do.
Just not half as successful.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure if they were related to me, they'd be very successful. Okay. No, the fake cockiness.
Yeah. This is classic Adrian on a day-to-day.
Yeah,
this is what I have to deal with, guys.
Yeah. I have to deal with this guy just making all these remarks.
I was going to say monster, but that's okay.
This monster, wow. That's very strong wording.
All right. Oh, I have to doubt this species.
Whoa.
This creature.
This creature, wow.
Actually, I prefer animal.
I think creature just gives off a different... It's like you've just been discovered in the woods and it's like no one knows.
Isn't there only one of you only child? Yeah, sounds about right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when you were in high school and then like, you know, it was coming time to think about like what kind of career you wanted. Yeah. What was running through your mind and what was the kind of input from parents per se?
I think continuing on from what my parents kind of wanted, they just wanted a career where I would like actually be more like academically involved. You know, something, you know, like doctor, lawyer, that sort of, you know, standard thing. So like when I did want to go into like engineering, they were like, yep, completely cool with that. In terms of like why I went to like software, well, I'd always been like interested in computers and that sort of thing from like a very young age.
How old are you talking?
I think when we first got the internet, I was like 4.
Whoa.
Well, that was like when I first learned how to like use the computer because...
Wow, you learned it at 4.
Yeah, my dad was using it all the time and I guess I was like interested in what he was doing. Yeah. So he showed me stuff like, oh, you know, if you have here, you can look stuff up on the internet. And this was back when they had, you know, the dial-up modems and they made the funny noise.
Yeah.
But I remember as a kid, like trying to go on the computer while he was like at work.
Oh.
And I couldn't access anything because with dial-up, you have to like set it up so it goes through the whole process. And then when you're done, you just turn it off. So it's not like now where the internet is just consistent. It's just on all the time. So I was trying to like Google stuff and I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh, you were smart for a 4-year-old.
I mean, I was only trying to find out like how to make paper planes because I really liked, I loved paper planes.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. But yeah, not being able to access those paper planes was very sad. And then eventually he taught me how to like use the dial-up. Yeah. And there was a whole process, but I think that was kind of when I got more into it. And then when I found out you can play, you know, pinball on the computer.
Legend.
Yeah. And all these games. And then I sort of got more into that. But I was like always interested in computers. And so I think it was pretty natural for me to want to do that. There were like some classes I did in grade 7 where we'd like try and program a little Lego robot, that sort of stuff. And I think it was just that thought process of trying to make the like program, even though it's like super basic programming. It's like you have blocks and you're just linking them together, that sort of thing. But I don't know, I think it was quite good, that sort of thing. So I think it was around grade 10 I decided, yeah, I'll try to pursue that. And I think it was just because that's when they make you pick all the subjects you're going to do in grade 11 and 12, so you can like try and get a good OP.
Yeah.
So you can go to uni and that sort of thing.
Woohoo. Yeah.
But I remember I was like pretty dead set with that career path, and so I realized that as a programmer that you're gonna need to learn how to type. So I spent 6 months like teaching myself how to type and that sort of thing.
Do you have a fast typing speed now?
Relatively. I don't want to say a number.
A little bit humble. Yeah, don't say a number. It's fine. You can tell me after.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe I'll race you.
Type racer.
Nah, my typing is terrible. There was like this program, typing tournament. I used to like go through all the levels. Click number 1, 0. Yeah. I remember being like afterwards, like deciding on that. I remember being pretty frustrated because at my primary school they always emphasize teaching running writing and instead of typing. And then,
we never ended up, that's a skill I never ended up using except for signatures.
Yeah.
And typing would have been way more
useful.
And like after learning typing, it was like so useful for like assignments and stuff, because it's like you can just, like when you're writing, English, you're writing a story or writing anything, you can just type stuff. Like you're writing a paper, you can just type stuff as it appears in your mind. It lets you have like a flow. So that was like such a useful skill, and I'm like so glad that I had the patience back then to learn the skill, because I swear I've become more impatient as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
And just having like, the drive to actually learn it, like typing. So yeah, like I was like pretty dead set on doing software by that time.
Interesting. And so like at that time, like, because people, they also go like into IT and like other sort of similar-ish fields. So how did you know specifically software engineering, if you want to explain the difference? But you've been asked many times.
So software engineering is kind of like you're applying sort of the engineering principles to the field of software. So, like the design aspect and talking with clients and that sort of thing. There's a lot of overlap between all the different fields. So I'm just reading basically the dictionary, because in a lot of ways, there's so much similarity between all the, like, computer science, IT, software. There's like, even at uni, there's a lot of like shared courses and that sort of stuff. So trying to explain the difference is like, but I would say computer science is a lot more theory based. Software engineering is a lot more practical. But it's also very like, you're dealing with a lot of different potential fields within software. And I think IT is also a lot more practical as well, but I think there's less emphasis on engineering, like that sort of thing. But so.
Yeah, cool. And so when you were filling out like your application for uni, so I see number 1, software engineering at UQ, and then what's like your second, third, or fifth, if you had any?
I was very set on software, so it would have been software engineering at QUT, software engineering at Griffith, and then it would have been like IT or computer science at UQ, and then back down the list again. So I was fairly set on software or something in that field. So. But if you don't mind, my dad actually asked me a very interesting question.
Oh, go for it.
Which was like, if knowing what you know now, would I have done the exact same thing? And I think I still would have, but I probably would have looked at other engineering fields. Like I definitely think I would have gone into engineering, but I think I was a bit more dismissive of the other engineering disciplines before, and I would probably take the time to consider them now. So like mechatronic or electrical, but still like, still dealing with wires and computers and that sort of thing. But software's always been a bit of a black sheep. It's just kind of like more focused on completely like being on a computer rather than the other ones where you're like,
more hands-on.
Yeah, a lot more hands-on. Like there are hands-on courses in software, but it's a bit more just sitting on a computer, just tap, tap, tap. Yeah. Which, I like. So.
Yeah, but you're also really social, so I
so it's a bit of a
struggle at times. Yeah, it's interesting because I had a friend, and then he did computer science, and then like when he graduated, the teacher said like, you would like never really like be very, very successful at computer science because you love people too much.
Oh, right.
Because some people, like some YouTubers, they say that like, to be like excellent at coding, like you have to be able to like sit down for extremely long periods of time. And generally it's like they're quite introverted, right? Where they don't necessarily have to feel that urge, like they can like don't leave the house for. That's a bit of a stereotype, but
I was going to remark, it's definitely a stereotype, and it's definitely something that I was like thinking about when I like went into it. But I think having the ability to converse with people is especially important. I think with engineering, you're dealing with all these different groups of people at a company who have different roles, they have different, they're working on different stuff. And I think being able to communicate with them properly, especially when you're on a project where there's a client, you have to be able to communicate with all different roles and that sort of thing. So I actually think it's very important to be able to like speak to people and be able to communicate properly. And I think with software engineering, if you're able to do that, that's something that can set you apart from other people, because there is the stereotype that that you're not going to be very social. No one knows, like, you're just going to be in a dark room and there's like you're going to wear a hoodie, you're going to like tap, 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 hacking into all the databases, all these flashing screens. But it's completely not like that. Like it's, you have to be able to talk to people, and it'll make your job a lot easier if you can. It's not a deal breaker, because you can find roles in the company companies where like you don't need to talk to anyone, but it definitely helps. So
I think in any job, communication.
Like that's because everyone has the stereotype of like software engineers being very socially inept.
And then suddenly Adrian doesn't meet it, and they're like, "Whoa, you have social skills, so good."
Okay, calling them social skills, that's a bit much. I have like the bare minimum I need to get away with stuff, but I think just being able to have like a one-on-one conversation with someone is like kind of it's good skill to learn, and definitely take the time to practice if
like on my podcast, if you want to
that's half the reason I attended the podcast, was for just some practice.
People upskilling.
It's going on my resume after.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Can you be a reference?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
don't expect anything good.
Okay.
Right, complete trash.
Wow. Thank you, Karen. Just
No
sabotaging my career prospects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's kind of interesting, because people say that like when you start off like as a graduate, right? Like they sort of like they look at your soft skills, people skills, stuff like that. But they also look at your technical skills. But then as you climb up the ladder, it becomes less technical but more people management. So
100%.
Can definitely see you succeeding there.
Oh, thank you. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I won't enjoy it.
True.
Like, I think there's a lot of misconceptions in a lot of different fields. And I think with software, people who don't necessarily have the soft skills or don't expect to like require them for their job might have a bit of a shock when you're having to attend meetings all the time and people expect you to say stuff. You're demoing stuff that you've worked on. You're working on a project with other people, because that's another thing. Like uni, you're kind of like a lone wolf in a lot of your courses. And in the courses where you are working with other people, there's a lot of people have a lot of bad impressions and bad memories of group projects because it's not necessarily realistic. But I think being able to manage like the conflicts and the, people not delivering and that sort of thing, it's part of working on a team. And I think, there's a lot of skills like that which I think are very useful for your career. So say what you will about university. I think it does teach you some skills outside of the...
University is not perfect.
It's not perfect. It very much isn't. And I hope the EQ dean isn't overhearing this.
Listening to this. But we graduated, so, you feel
see ya. I think, university is like, it teaches you stuff. It doesn't teach you stuff. And
sometimes it's like, some people think that you shouldn't actually expect that much from university, right? They give you the sort of like platform, and then the rest is, you figure it out. A lot of
exactly.
Seizing opportunities.
And that's something I was going to remark on, is that as my degree is coming to a close, I do wish I took more opportunity to like participate in more extracurricular stuff. Like I did attend a lot, like my fair share of things, but I think a lot of times, like one thing is like I live a little bit far from the uni, so commuting all the time was not ideal. But I think at the same time, uni, like a lot of what you get out of uni is what you get out of it. It's like you have to, go in and do as much as you can to get as much out of it as you can. Like it's not just about the courses, it's about the people you meet, it's about the memories and because, like when you start working, there's, I think, a little bit less opportunity to do, like there still is opportunity, but there is a lot. It's like a good time to see what you want to do and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think especially like on the friend making front, like when you start working, there's less of an opportunity to, hang out socially and stuff like that. And I feel like, like a lot of the friends that I've made, like I don't know how many friends I'll make in the next 5 years, because you don't have like, like friendships, they like are born out of like being like frequent sort of, interaction. I mean, like you'll interact with people like at work and stuff, but it's all in a sort of very professional kind of context. And
that is true. I think if you can, trying to talk to people like during the lunch break is quite a good time, because then there's less, it's not about work, you're just eating, and there's like, but you're still within
within the boundaries.
The boundaries, so you can't say a lot of stuff that you could outside of work. But
so make friends while you're at uni.
yes, that's a good one. But also, I think don't assume that like your life is over as soon as you start, because I think a lot of people have that mentality, and I think it causes them to overlook opportunities as well. So I think just keep learning, keep trying.
That sounds good. Yeah, and then, like, because you said that you lived far away, so do you think that you would have, like, maybe potentially moved out, a bit closer, or, because, I can imagine that, like, for me to get to uni versus you to get to uni, like, then, like, I would have, like, I don't know, maybe it takes me, like, 40, 50 minutes up front, and then, like, there would be, like, 50 minutes where I can almost talk myself out, right? I'm like, oh, no, maybe not, like, opposed to if I live next door, I'll be like, oh, I'm out of here, and then next moment you're there. So do you think that you would, like, the distance is like a thing, so do you think you would somehow be able to overcome it?
That's a good question. I think in a lot of ways it did come down to like money, but also like, like, I'm very comfortable living with my parents, and I would have to move out with like a group of people who might have a completely different lifestyle to me. They might have completely different priorities, and even like amongst friends, like moving out with friends, you really find out stuff about them that you don't want to know, and like you weren't expecting. They might be a completely different person to live with than you anticipate, and so. I don't know, I think there was a lot of unknowns, and that kind of was why I was like, I'll just commute in, it's fine. But maybe now I would probably be a bit more open-minded to it. I think just throughout uni I was a bit like, it's fine. And then like, when the pandemic happened, I was like, I can do everything from home anyway. So but software as well kind of lends itself to being like you're able to do it remotely. So even before COVID, it was like I wouldn't rock up to uni a lot. I would just stay home.
Fair enough.
So it doesn't lend itself well to the stereotype of the software, but it does make it easier for you to do more stuff at home when you're in this field. But
Fair enough, because I wonder if, like, how you give, like, advice to your younger self, if you're like, go to uni more, and then, like, we rewind to Adrian in year 2, whether or not you'd actually take that advice, because you'll be like, oh man, I'm so tired, I just handed an assignment, can't really be stuffed to get to uni, or, I almost wonder if, like, even if you knew what you knew, if history would almost repeat itself.
I feel like history probably would. I feel like I was always like, I don't know, everyone was just saying...
Because you knew at the time, you knew like, like there's stuff going on at UQ, I could go to X event, but you're like, so far.
Yeah, it's just like, it just adds another barrier, and it's just another opportunity for you to say no to something when you live so far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just now because, like, at this point in my life and my degree and that sort of thing, it's like you're kind of just reflecting a lot on like what you've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, definitely. And it's like, you know, I never asked myself, you know, super deep questions before. I always thought it was a bit cliche, but like now I'm just like, who am I?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do for the next? Like, you know, there's like all these big questions, and you know, just trying to work out what it means to you, and the answers to that is like something I've been thinking about lately, and I'm still thinking about, you know.
Yeah, me too. Like graduation is like the perfect time for uncertainty, existential crisis.
And it's like, you know, I feel like I'm in a limbo right now. It's like, okay, I'm just in this in-between period between this and this, and it's like, but I think, you know, I think once that's over, hopefully it's good. I don't know. It's just this, you know, it's the stereotypical quarter life crisis, you know, 20-year-old uncertainty, that sort of thing. But, you know,
interesting.
See how it goes.
So we're nearly at the end of the podcast. So about the deep questions. So, Adrian, to you, what do you think the meaning of life is?
It has a lot of like philosophical and like religious context.
This is your league.
Oh boy. I think in terms of, I guess it's just, like the meaning of life is very subjective. It's very individual, I would say. I think at some point in everyone's life, you ask yourself the question. But yeah, I think it's just whatever meaning you want to give it. I think it's just, it's a very cliche answer, but it's true, I think. Depending on what you believe, that, you know, if you believe there is like destiny, you know, that sort of thing, there is that. But it's like, you know, there's still a lot of individual input. There's a lot of input from other people telling you what you should do in your life as well. And I think it's just the decision that you make based on those inputs is kind of like, and the way that you want to move forward in your life is probably, I would say that's the meaning, but...
Yeah, so what is your meaning?
What is my meaning? I mean, you know, like I had the typical, you know, I've been raised with the, you know, the typical, you know, get a job, get a house, have a family, that sort of, you know, the trinity of like ideas. But I think a lot of people tend to overlook like the smaller events in life, and the smaller, they don't really appreciate it as much because they're too busy looking at like the big picture things. And I think taking the time to, you know, reflect on that sort of thing and just think about the small things in life, like the small goals that you want to achieve, you know, I think it's not always about those, you know, job, family, that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of stuff to experience, and you should try and experience, you know, some of it if you enjoy it, you know. But yeah, I guess.
Pretty good answer.
I don't know if it was a good answer. It was just, that's just what I've been pondering. Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and so if it's, you know, if life is about the small things, what do you think is your perfect day in the life? Thanks for the good segue.
Yes, that was a good segue. I like that. Day in the life. I think the perfect day in the life would be just a day where I could work on like a personal project, but also a day that had like some downtime as well. So like, I don't know. I like programming, but I haven't had much time to do it in the context of like personal projects. So I think focusing on a personal project, like really getting stuck into it, would be good. You know, at the same time, practicing skills, you know, all these different things, being a bit somewhat creative. And then for like the rest of the day, just like relaxing, doing like just complete downtime, you know, just drinking coffee, playing games,
Yeah.
watching TV. But I think having a mix of the two, like time where I can just step back from what I want to work on and time to actually get into the meat of it, you know.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoy both of those, but it's just completely circumstantial.
Yeah.
Because I think having one without the other can be very, like if you don't have something you're passionate about, it's like, you know, like it feels like it's meaningless.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like if you don't have time to step back and, you know, ponder things and do stuff that doesn't require much thinking, it's like, you know, it can be a good refresher.
Definitely. So the key to life is balance.
Balance. Whoa! Is that the
cliches.
theme? Nice.
Can you imagine?
No one has
Adrian,
ever said this.
Balance.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait, so we're nearly at the end. So what has your podcast experience been like before we wrap up?
It's been very good. I've liked it. I like the whole interview, you know, process. I like having to be a bit more reflective of things just in my life. I said a lot.
Yeah.
Like you're very conscious of words that you ever use. That's like something that I'm like, oh no, I said that word way too much.
Yeah.
But no, it was very good. I enjoyed it.
Any surprises?
Any
Apart from the
surprises?
laughing. Oh man, take 3.
Hey, that was more than 3 takes. It was like take 5 by the end of it. There were no takes. This was perfect.
Yeah.
Any surprises? I mean, you told me some of the questions beforehand, but I still was taken aback when you asked them anyways. I was like, oh no, I have time to answer this fundamental question that like everyone ever has and offer my own personal take on it.
Yeah.
But it's not that, like, I think a lot of people would say something similar to what I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, recommend your friends for next time.
Yes,
In 1 hour, we're
in
gonna
1
break
hour.
some people.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get as many people involved in the podcast.
See if we can get like a 2 out of 2, and if they know who we're referring to, hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, nice.
Nice. Bye.
See ya.